Obviously we're coming down towards the end here, yet I wanted to do another video just because the other one was getting so damn long. Alright, and I know a lot of people don't watch the middle playthrough, but maybe watch the first one and maybe the wrap sometimes, although the wraps have been getting really low viewership recently for whatever reason. Let's take a look at Orange. Could be because sometimes I load up the review and they both come available at the same time. I hold the review private until the wrap is ready, but it's easier with this stupid camera to work that way. So we've got a it looks like silk in these two warehouse locations. How worthwhile is that to me? Silk is not very valuable. The warehouse locations are of interest. There's no question there. I'm going to throw this as the auction item. Any commodity over there, this is useless to me. And that means, we get a time marker. It's time to lose something somewhere in the world. Okay. This is tough because if I could get somewhere in the world, I make 100,000 if I keep what I've got. Now I think when I lose these, I don't lose the associated commodity, but I'm not sure. Yeah, it's just the office, I think. That's what it appears to be. Alright, so basically then I'd only be opening something up, and I'm going to take a loss here. My choices are sugar or gems. Sugar I'm in the race for, so I don't really want another sugar available to someone else, although it would be available to me. Yeah, let's take the sugar because it opens it up for me as well, and I might be interested in it. Alright, now green has to lose something in the world. Green is also close to that 100,000. Their choices are spice, where they're in the lead, they'd rather not open up another one of them, and sugar, which they don't care about. Blue, also close to that 100,000. Where am I most invested, essentially? The East Indies is very valuable. This is kind of weak. I'm going to pull out of here, but my choices become silk or spice. I'd rather open up another silk because there's plenty of that anyway, so it's not really affecting things. But the spice doesn't mean much to me, and neither one means anything to me. Yellow. Yellow is not close to the 100,000. I'm not going to score crap for this. I'm ditching it. And now over to purple. Purple's already pulled the 100,000, or warehouse, or whatever you get. I think you get the 100,000 off this. So it becomes simply, where do I gain or lose something? This is the least valuable territory out of the bunch. Now, the problem is I'm tied for second in a lot of places, and I've got first here, but I'm tied for first in a lot of places, but I'm tied for first here with only one person, and I'm tied for first with, you know, two other people in other places. So it's a harder choice, but I'm going to burn one of these. They're both gems, so it doesn't matter. Alright, and we keep pulling, and we get, well, I guess we're getting a warehouse with some silk, which is okay. Okay. And in ordering, well, this is orange. Orange gets a silk and a warehouse, and that warehouse can be here or here. And my next warehouse is here or here if I get it. Geez, I don't know. I mean, I can't really compete here. I can go to first place if I get that one. Let's throw it up here. Move towards that 100,000 bonus. I doubt I'll get it. And now we go to the auction. A lot of people had a real interest in this one because it opened up for green or for blue, the fourth warehouse. So they had significantly higher interest in it because, well, granted, they may get another warehouse option. They don't have to compete with anybody. It's not like getting a boost anywhere that's really necessary. But blue went up to 50,000 because this is worth 100 grand for them. And they get to A, get a silk, which is also of some value to them, and B, place this somewhere. There aren't many interesting places. The bridge is probably the most valuable, potentially. And now they pull 100,000 rather quickly. Alright, so here we are in the final guy of this round around. Green. Warehouse. And sugar. He's not terribly interested in sugar. These warehouses don't intrigue him at all. I think he's just uninterested in this one. He's going to throw it away for that reason. It's not the protective throwaway. Sometimes you put something like this up for auction with the thought of, well, I don't give a shit about it, but we're actually looking to improve our situation, I think. 3 commodities. Now, these are nice. Nothing new is coming. I'm just going to suck this one down. That's better, I think, than I'm likely to get. And a time event. We each lose a commodity. Well, I've got a pile of commodities coming. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to get the bonus warehouse very easily. Actually, 3 commodities wasn't worth all that much to me. I'll lose this one because I get some immediate growth. Blue can't lose this one or he'll lose his warehouse bonus, which you really don't want to do. So I can only lose 1 there. I'll lose a lot of position essentially. Oh, no, I don't have to lose 3. Alright. Yellow. Yellow's probably not going to get the bonus. They're going to throw this when it's not too useful to them. Purple. Purple has the bonus. They can't just lose something. Taking a second place here might not hurt them, but also dropping this might not hurt them. The second place is less valuable, so I'll drop that instead. Dropping further back there. And now to orange, who, shit, I don't know what happened here. I think it's here. I'm not sure. Got bumped. Well, that's clearly 1 orange can go. And I better go shut off my computer. It just... Okay, and that puts us to a final draw, which is that warehouse section. Any goods? Now we ditch things. 3 commodities for green. Definitely want that one. We can't gain a lot anywhere. That's the problem. I may take a second here to guarantee my first place. And I'll throw another one down there. Not an optimal choice. Actually, this wasn't that valuable for him. And then over here we got the auction in this area. Let's see what that brings. Different locations are becoming worth wildly different values to people, so I have to kind of calculate everybody's value out for their base value, and then I roll off. The base value I usually set a little below what I think they're going to make off of it. You want to make a profit always. But you got to keep in mind also there's the possibility of someone else being able to deprive someone else of something. That gives you some marginal value. There's also the possibility of falling into good things. Anyway, this went to purple for 60, which is probably more than purple. Oh, not for 510. Let's find a 50 there. That's probably more than purple really wanted to pay for it. But there were people out there who were going to get the bonus of rising up into a place on the value. Now that, let's say we're in the third place here, that's worth an immediate, 60 right off the bat in terms of points. That's a lot more than some people are willing to pay. So by taking that away, as well as getting his own placement here, where he can increase to first place. Now that may not stick because we may have, no, we don't have any more deletions. The deletions we have are both going to be on the commodities market, the ones that are left. One of them is your standard, everybody removes one. One though is all the leaders go back one, which is why you see people trying to build a little bit more space. If you want to maintain the lead for the final part of the game, you have to get rid of that. You have to take that into account. And I also get a commodity for purple, which I think purple kind of want it. They can push this. Of course, that puts them in the leader space. That may not be the time to take it because blue will go down with them if they go with this one. Do they want a different one? No. Yeah. I don't know. See, third place is worth nothing. That's the problem. I'm going to boost my first place position a little higher. That may actually end up giving this a higher ranking, which is valuable in and of itself. One neat thing. So, I mean, this is very much what I'd call a thematic game in the sense that it barely really represents the topic. No big shock there for Knizia. It's a little more complicated, a little more moving pieces than most Knizia games have. Maybe a little more than I like, but I still get some enjoyment out of it. But, it does sort of represent the topic in the sense of, you've got this growth happening, and then you've got the decline of Amsterdam and the Dutch trading companies in the period where that starts to fall. And that's kind of neat, I guess. But, it just ends up being one of these majority control games that Knizia really likes. Unfortunately, he's not getting the new ideas that showed up in some of the earlier ones. Now it's kind of like just trying to press something else out of the mechanisms and reaching for a little bit more complexity to make another layer that makes it more interesting or whatever. And that's one of the dangers. This, I don't think, is a terribly new game, but that's one of the dangers that the Euro designs have, is because they don't link directly to topic. You're left with, okay, there's some simple designs that are classic and elegant. Tigris and Euphrates comes to mind quite often for me. It's not terribly simplistic, but there's something very elegant about it. But then when you start trying to reach and use these same kind of systems, these same kind of mechanisms, with little twists or adding extra layers on them, it just starts to get kind of, what is this all about anyway? You're no longer producing these elegant games that some Euros tend to be, and you're also not really representing anything effectively. So I really kind of dislike the heavier you get, and this is probably bordering on the layer of that, although I do have some fun with this, especially because I think that adds a lot of excitement to the game. Alright, let's pull another one here. This is for blue. These two and gems. Gems is not of interest to blue. These two could be of interest. Do I want to put this up? Because it could be bad for me as well. Yeah, I'm going to throw this in the auction pile. I don't think it's terribly valuable for me. I think I want other gains. This one is over here. Any goods? Is there a good I really want to improve? I've got some nice first place positions. I think I'm going to discard that one. It's less important. Uh-oh, time. All right, leaders all go back one. And that includes both people here who are tied. And here we have anywhere in the world a silk. Well, that's kind of cool that I've got that. And that'll advance immediately because I'm done with these. And now to the auction. Interesting bidding on this one because it was really only worth a lot to 2 people. Because the gems market is largely determined already. It's only really worth a lot to these 2. But to those 2, it's worth significant amounts. It is maybe not just the difference between... This is probably the first ranking, so this would be 320 for first place. Total is 320, so it's 160 for a tied situation up to 200. So you'd say it's worth about 40. But the truth of the matter is, it's actually worth significantly more. Now, why? Okay, because the tie at 160, it's actually worth about 80 just for this. Because whoever gets first probably is competing with the other person. It ended up actually going for 110, which may be an overvaluing to blue. And he actually doesn't even get an improvement, and neither would yellow. So this was probably a mistake, except it gives him some extra fluff there. This was misbid, definitely. And we get, what, gems to go with that. Oops. Oh well. Every so often people are going to miss a bit. But what I was thinking was, why it's kind of interesting is because 2 people were heavily invested in this one. It's worth more to them. Now, that's the case in a lot of games. I'm thinking, what was the Priceless? An old game I still own, but I don't have up here. Which was kind of a neat little Euro-styled game where you're bidding on different sets. Now, in a 2-player game of this, the value is about the same to both people because one person is, competing with the other. So you end up making, the choice of, well, if this helps player B a significant amount and helps me a certain amount, those 2 become combined. And you can almost calculate at this point of the game to within $10 what you can bid on something. And then it's almost deterministic what the bids are going to be, except this thing kind of starts to randomize stuff. Who clicks in, who gets that extra $10 advantage or whatever. Earlier in the game, it's much harder to determine what the worth is. But here, in a multiplayer version, even with 3 players, I'm sure it's the case, you're not just competing with one person, so you can't completely evaluate what something is worth to you. If one person is in the lead and you're competing with that person, then you can start to do it again. But it's not always clear. Even with open money, you may not want to spend that kind of time. If you did, if I did, I certainly wouldn't want to play the game. And if you did, I probably wouldn't want to play it with you. Because I don't like when you end up calculating that much. I would actually rather play this with hidden money for the simple reason that, hey, now I just have a general feel. So I can calculate my own value. I can guess what it's worth to you, or where you are in position with me. But I won't know specifically who's winning. Like it's yellow's turn here. And they pull anywhere in the world spices. Spices are interesting to them. Anywhere in the world is certainly going to be of some value. Unfortunately, maybe not too much to yellow. Ugh. I think it's worth putting up for auction because maybe I can win the spices race there. But we'll see. It's time for a timer. Everybody's got to drop themselves a shipping point. Now, this is tough. Here I lose second place. The only other shipping commodity I have is that. I'll get rid of that. That just made the spices less valuable to me. On to purple. Well, we don't know that anything's going to come of this. These are both worthwhile. This may be the least valuable to me, though. I'll drop in this. I'm in 3rd place, and it's a fairly distant 3rd. Over to orange. I got to lose one. Well, I don't think I'm going to make my 2 zones there, so I'm going to ditch something. Yeah, this is a closer race. I might get second in that. A valuable tie for second or something. Over to green. Green's got some space here, but I don't think I'm going to get my bonus warehouse. Here I'm quite far behind. Here I'm far behind. Let's just take a loss here. I mean, none of it matters, really. Over to blue. Blue's got trouble, but this is my 100,000 there. I can't lose that. This is a weak value, so I'll take a loss there and drop down to a tie for first in that. Because I can't give this up. I could give up my tie for second. That may be a more valuable commodity right now. All right, and now we keep drawing. And we're getting awfully close to the end. This is the last turn. This player turn. Now, what's interesting about this? They go into the number of cards guarantees each player will have the same number of turns. The game ends at the end of the turn in which time passage marks that. Now, how does the number of cards guarantee this? I think we have to remember who went first and we have to go through the other player's actions. That is not clear to me from the rules, the way they're written. Let's see. So for example here, it's possible that the last card in the deck is a sand clock card. In this case, the player drawing it. Well, it's also possible it could be not the last card, but the second to last or something like that. And what goes up with that? Since there will be no action cards left, and this will be an extra turn for that player. I'm just not seeing where this in any way guarantees this. Are there enough cards that everybody gets a turn? That's one question. I've got 3. Well, we don't know how many time cards there are in here, but I've got 3. Yeah, there are enough left that everybody gets a turn. So I think by the way it's written, the intention is that you work your way around so that everybody gets 1 turn. That is not how the mechanism seems to play, though. Of course, what a turn is may not be well defined. And that may be the issue here. On a player's turn. I mean, a turn sounds like something one player gets. And that's what bugs me here. And in fact, I think the intention is that everybody gets 1 turn from that. But it's certainly not... it's not clearly spelled out in the rules. Anyway, we'll keep going. Yeah, what if there's another time card? There can't be, but there has to be because there are too many cards otherwise. All right. We get this, any commodity. How's that valuable to me? As yellow. Commodities may not be terribly valuable. A place here would get me second place. I don't know that I want this. I may want it more than I wanted this. Although any place in the world could get me a first place here. I'm going to put this in the discard pile and hope I get a good draw. And well, I get a gems commodity, which I don't really care much about. And a warehouse here or here, which again I probably don't care too much about. This one might have been more valuable. Alright, we get my freebie. Oh, sorry, up over here. Well, here I get a second place because I'm actually attached to it. Here I would get 40,000 in a second place. That sounds like good. I got the bridge here. So we'll go with that. And we get a gem. And now we have our auction as always. This was a valuable space because this space is available on the Spice. In fact, it may be the only Spice available. And there's one down here in South America as well. This one gives a first place finish in the first location to a number of people. It ended up going for 120, which was a good 30,000 more than other people were willing to pay, to the purple player. And he gets a Spice. And now I guess we move the discs to indicate that there's, you know, 3 more turns, even though it says you only play out till the end of the turn. I think by turn in this case they mean the complete round of turns. These terms are not well defined in the rules. Alright, moving forward with purple's turn. 3 commodities. What does 3 commodities do me? First of all, there's a defensive matter to this, which is I don't want to lose my positions here, which could easily happen. So give me a gain here perhaps, a gain here, and then another one I can throw somewhere. I don't have anywhere great to put it, but that's a pretty good card as always. Another 3 commodities. I don't want that going out. Although, if I put it for auction, I might actually get more placements. I just don't want it there. And then the final thing going for auction is anywhere in the world, silk. Well, because I have the 3 commodities, I am going to defend, not only take a majority in silk, but defend it. And that makes this auction less interesting to everyone. A high expenditure for blue. They thought this was again worth more than it really is. They spent 90 on it, but they can only place in 2 places. A second place finish here, or a tie for first here. I think the tie for first is worth more than splitting a second place finish. Splitting a second place finish there is worth 20. This tie is certainly worth at least that. I don't want to calculate it. And we get a boost there, which, you know, who knows, maybe another opportunity will rise from that. I thought I was going to be able to use it over here. Again, mistakes are easy to make in this game, especially when you're playing multiple powers at once. But this is, I was at a tie for first, which was worth maybe 4, or for second, which was worth maybe 40. And now I'm in a tie for second, which is worth 100. So it was worth 60 bucks to me, but that's it. Not the 90 that I paid. Unless there's some residual value over here. Let's do another player. We get this set, any commodity for orange. Orange could get a first place in one of the bigger commodities. I don't think that may be that top commodity, but I don't think so. I think some of the others are better. So I'll say that's probably about second. And I get a warehouse over here, which would give me 100,000 bucks. That's pretty nice. I want 100,000 bucks. I'm not going to probably beat that on anything. Oh, a 3 commodity market. Now, this is interesting to me because I'm not going to lose any position based on this card. So I'll put it up for auction. I may gain something interesting from it. And then the final one's a discard, of course. So we go with this one. We get our 3rd warehouse. We'll put it over here in this kind of rich section here and grab our 100,000 for all 4 warehouses. And then we have this final auction, which may be worth a decent amount to some people. Sucker's going for 100,000, which was a big jump. The next highest was maybe around 60 for blue. Willing to spend some money to boost himself up here, and I guess a second place here. And that moves the discs to the final player. Everything should be pretty calculable at this point in the game, but I don't want to expend that kind of effort. Alright, so we're down to the final set of cards for this play. Indeed, there's 3 cards left, 3 positions to take. So I guess the habit here will be you keep playing the cards out until they end, although the way it's worded doesn't seem to imply that. In 2 players, if you do choose to do this in 2 players, it's not clear what you should do. You could play it out with the no three-player cards in play. You'll still end up with the right amount of actions for each player. If you end up playing with the no three-player cards, we have a bunch of them stuck in here somewhere, which are all commodity market changes, out of the deck, it may be a better game, but the numbers may not work out correctly. I'm not sure what the situation with that is. In which case, you may want to remove those and leave one in the deck or something. The reason that you don't want to play with them, even though the numbers will work out okay, is that produces too many commerce or commodity bonuses. In 4 or 5 players, there's enough room on the track for all the players to get advances here. In 2, even playing without them, people were maxing out on the track, and that feels a little funny to have 2 people stuck at the top. You don't feel like you have the same liberty to exploit the advantages of those cards in that way. It starts, I don't know. It's not really bad. It just feels a little funny. All right, let's see. Now, if I was able to count cards and knew everything that was played, or could deal through the deck, maybe I could know what I'm going to get. But I don't. And I wouldn't want to tell you the truth. So, green, what does he feel about a sugar? He doesn't give a shit about that. And about the Americas, he doesn't care too much about them. This seems like a good choice of cards to throw on the timer. It might be of some value. The next one would give me a guaranteed nothing in terms of warehouses, and a commodity which doesn't look terribly interesting in the trash pile. Those are functionally equivalent. And now my final one is the $100,000 or guilders and a commodity, and that's what we won. We're glad we held out. Could have been another bad card, in which case we didn't really lose anything there. So we get to place one of these. It doesn't matter where we put it, the last card of the game, but this is big. And then to this final auction, we'll see what that goes for. This should be completely calculable, what it's worth to people. And the question, of course, though, still comes, I still kind of want to use the dice, because even when it's completely calculable, sometimes you screw up with these. But I'm going to mitigate that die roll a little bit, not allow it to take as extreme a result as it would otherwise. Orange picked this one up actually for maybe more than it's worth to him, $140,000. Other people were trying to lowball it, try to make a little bit more ground. Orange actually took a different tactic there. So he's going to get an Americas, and he's stuck with sugar, which is actually kind of nice for him. So it was actually worth a good deal to him compared to maybe what other people could have gotten for it. Only blue was really interested in protecting that, and they didn't go for it. I think we had another high bid somewhere, but I don't remember what it was. Now it's time to score, and we just slide forward here. I don't really understand, other than taking a turn as a round of turns, how the rules are meant to be interpreted. But that's the only way that you end up with an equal number of turns per player. I don't think there's any guarantee, though, that... Yeah, there is. So there'll always be enough cards for that, or you'll have already run through all the cards and you'll just naturally end up there. So it works out that way. It's just the rules are not at all clear. All right, for counting, what do? Well, we go through one big round of comparing what all these are worth to people. And I'm just going to spreadsheet that out along with the total amounts of money for people so that we can come back with a sort of clear understanding of how big a deal that final round is. It's a lot of money, but there's been a lot of money gathered over the game, right? The results of my spreadsheeting came out a little interesting from my point of view. Let's take a look at what we got here. I set up for each player the amount that they made from each of the different things, and then we totaled this up, and we've got blue and purple scored fairly high, 780 and 760. Now remember, purple has this 200 buck loan, or 200 guilder loan, which is going to come off their cash on hand. Then when I counted the cash on hand, we see a big difference across here as well. Here we're talking about a 300 buck difference in terms of total of the final evaluation. But as we kick across here, we see a huge amount of cash on hand sitting in some of the players who maybe didn't spend as much early or late in the game in some ways. And I think that, well, obviously this 1150 here, which comes close to the victory conditions of most of the other players, their total victory, and maybe exceeds some people's, you know, that results in a 1550 total. I think what I was doing was setting those baselines a little too high for most of the players. Yellow didn't win a lot of bids, but where they did win, they were able to focus. They were able to focus on maintaining a decent position over there without a big expenditure. Pick up some second places in some places, not overpaying, taking, you know, their free picks and whatever. To some extent, I think they got lucky because green also didn't spend a lot, but they ended up scoring significantly less, and also actually having less cash on hand, because some of that cash on hand is generated from successes that you had previously. So if you don't invest, if you're faced with a climate where maybe the bids are too high for your taste, well, then you're basically looking at, my winning conditions will be based on the luck of the draw. Which is to say, some players who are overly eager in buying things will throw this game into very much a luck fest in a lot of players. That's a fear that I have with it. If everybody's very good and has a good grasp on what the value is, isn't looking at, you know, those early purchases were, hey, this is how much it's worth right now, and it will be worth more later. As I went later and later, this is where how much it's worth now really should have become more a maximum than maybe a baseline value. In too many cases, I looked at it as, well, it's worth this much now, and I'm damn sure of getting this. And I think that inflated some of the bids. Blue especially paid a little too much on a lot of things. I was kind of worried that it would go in the advantage of the people who are buying a lot. A lot of times games do work that way, where one person, you know, where investing a lot is almost worth it, where it's not always clear how much something is worth. But here I think you can get a pretty good grasp of how much something is worth, and I just was kind of missing that, speculating too much on how much it might be worth later on, or how much degrading other people's position is worth. Yellow was able to get away with some kind of lucky positioning there. Two players is very different. You really can have a feel for how much something is worth. There's also a weird little something that goes with this, where if somebody's close to where they think they're going to go, a fake to move can force them to play on it. So there's a way that, you know, some players may be forced to play worse by undermining, you know, and confusing them by your little hand motions and such not. Which is, to me, kind of a neat aspect of the game, but I could see some people really hating this kind of situation. It's along the lines, say, of the psychological game of thinking really hard on a bid to make people think this is your last bid or something like that. I don't know why you'd want them to do that. But if they want to give it to you and make you pay the most that you possibly can, that kind of thought can be of value. Likewise, a quick bid on something, or a jump bid or something like that, can have some psychological implications that some people may not like in a bidding game. In this case, there's another side, this sort of dexterity, weird trickery that can go on. Anyway, I'll come back with a review.